The city of Sevilla was alive with the sounds of guitar strings drifting through narrow streets, the scent of orange blossoms in the air, and the rhythm of flamenco dancers echoing from hidden courtyards. Among the people who grew up surrounded by this beauty were Elena Martinez and Isabel Vega. They had been inseparable since secondary school, two young girls who believed the world was theirs to explore. Elena, with her sketches of buildings on the backs of notebooks, dreamed of becoming an architect. Isabel, always confident and witty, dreamed of running her own gallery filled with paintings and sculptures from across Spain. Every afternoon, they sat together in a small cafe near Plaza de España, drinking cordidu and talking about everything from teachers they disliked to dreams of traveling to Madrid or even Paris. Locals often smiled, seeing them together, saying that nothing could break a friendship so strong. For Elena, Isabel was more than a friend. She was family. The one who shared secrets about late-night crushes, the one who offered comfort when Elena's parents fought, and the one who celebrated every small victory with exaggerated laughter. It was in those golden years, under the warm Andalusian sun, that Elena believed she had found the kind of friend people search for their whole lives. A bond that felt unshakable. But life in Sevilla, with all its beauty, also carried shadows. And Elena did not yet know that her trust would one day be tested in ways she could never have imagined. Months passed, and Sevilla was glowing with the golden light of summer. Elena had finally received the call she had been waiting for. A prestigious architecture firm in the heart of the city had offered her a position as a junior designer. It was the first step towards her dream. Excited, she rushed to tell Isabel the news. They met at their favorite cafe, the small one tucked into the corner of Calle Mateos Gago, with a perfect view of the Giralda Tower. Elena's eyes sparkled as she explained how she would now work on projects that could shape the city she loved. But Isabel's reaction was not what she expected. Instead of embracing her in congratulations, Isabel only sipped her coffee slowly, her smile faint and her words strangely flat. "Well," Isabel said softly, "I suppose not everyone has to struggle. Some of us need to work much harder for opportunities like that." The tone lingered, sharp beneath the casual delivery. Elena laughed it off at first, convincing herself Isabel was simply tired or having a bad day. Yet the weight of those words stayed with her long after she left the cafe. Soon little things began to pile up. When Elena spoke about her work, Isabel changed the subject. When Elena invited her to dinner with new colleagues, Isabel declined with excuses. What had once been warmth and shared excitement seemed to cool into distance. Elena told herself not to overthink, that true friendship could not be shaken by small shadows. But deep inside, something unsettled had begun to stir. And Sevilla, with all its laughter and music, no longer felt quite the same. One evening, Elena arrived at the cafe earlier than usual. The streets of Sevilla were alive with voices, the clinking of glasses, and the distant hum of flamenco from a nearby tavern. She pushed the door open, expecting to see Isabel waiting at their usual table. But instead, she saw Isabel already there, laughing with two women Elena barely knew. At first, Elena felt glad. Isabel was always the social one. Yet as she approached, she caught fragments of their conversation. "She acts as if she's already a famous architect," Isabel said with a smirk, her hand wrapped around a glass of Tinto de Verano. "But we both know she only got the job because they needed someone cheap." The words froze Elena in place. Her chest tightened, her breath caught in her throat. She could hardly believe it was Isabel's voice speaking with such cruel ease. The other women laughed lightly, feeding on Isabel's mockery. Elena quietly stepped back, her footsteps swallowed by the music outside. She could not bring herself to confront Isabel in that moment. Her hands trembled as she walked away, blending into the narrow alley where lanterns flickered against old stone walls. The laughter still echoed in her ears, a sound she once cherished, now poisoned. She had trusted Isabel with every dream, every doubt. And here, in the cafe that once held their secrets, Isabel had turned those dreams into casual entertainment. Elena told herself it was only once, that maybe she misheard. Yet deep down she knew the truth. A crack had formed in the foundation of their bond. And once cracks appear, they spread. Elena tried to act as if nothing had happened. She accepted Isabel's invitation to a gathering at Plaza de España, where friends from their old school would meet. The fountains sparkled under the moonlight, and guitarists played melodies that filled the air with romance. When Elena arrived, Isabel was at the center of the group, her voice rising above the others. As soon as Elena approached, she noticed the shift. The laughter quietened, glances flickered, and Isabel smiled too sweetly, as if to mask something already spoken. Throughout the evening, Isabel spoke over her, interrupted her stories, and made subtle remarks that left Elena humiliated in front of their friends. Elena sat in silence, her eyes tracing the arches of the grand square, wondering how the girl she once trusted had become her sharpest critic. The night ended, but the unease followed her home through the dim streets of Sevilla. Weeks later, Elena discovered something worse. A colleague at her new firm casually mentioned details from Elena's private life, things she had shared only with Isabel. The failed relationship she never spoke of, the nights of doubt when she almost gave up her studies, secrets that should have been safe. Elena's face flushed. She realized Isabel had been speaking behind her back, sharing intimate truths as if they were stories for amusement. Trust had become betrayal. The streets of Triana, once alive with vibrant colors, now seemed darker when Elena walked alone. Every corner reminded her of the nights spent with Isabel, confiding under the stars. Now those memories burned like fire. During the Feria de Abril, when Sevilla lit up with lanterns, music, and dancing, Elena expected the joy of old times. She wore a simple dress, blending with a sea of flamenco patterns and colors. When she saw Isabel, her heart twisted. Isabel was surrounded by people, laughing louder than anyone, her hand gesturing as if she were a performer on a stage. Elena approached with hesitation, but Isabel greeted her with cool indifference. "Elena, you finally made it," Isabel said, her voice sharp as glass. "We were just talking about your big projects. Quite ambitious, aren't they?" The group chuckled. Elena felt her stomach tighten. She smiled faintly, but inside she knew this was no longer friendship. It was performance. Isabel had turned her into a character in her stories, not a companion in her life. The music of Sevillanas carried on, but for Elena, the night was filled only with silence. The days that followed were heavy. Elena no longer visited the cafe. She no longer shared her victories or her fears. Whenever Isabel sent a casual message, Elena replied politely but briefly. She began to build a wall, brick by brick, distance by distance. Instead, she poured her energy into her work. The firm trusted her with bigger projects. She walked the streets with new colleagues who admired her talent, people who encouraged her instead of tearing her down. But in quiet moments, when she passed familiar places, her heart still ached. Friendship was supposed to be eternal. Yet Elena knew she had to choose, cling to a bond poisoned by lies, or set herself free. One Sunday morning, the bells of Sevilla Cathedral rang, filling the air with solemn echoes. Elena stood outside, watching the grand doors open as crowds gathered for Mass. Isabel appeared, dressed elegantly, her eyes catching Elena's. They exchanged no smiles. For the first time, Elena approached not as a friend, but as someone ready to end a chapter. "Why?" Elena's voice was calm, almost broken. "Why turn everything I trusted into stories for strangers?" Isabel's lips curled into a dismissive smile. "You take yourself too seriously, Elena. It was all harmless. People like to talk." The words struck like cold steel. Isabel's face showed no remorse, only pride. At that moment, Elena understood. There was no saving what once was. The girl she loved as a sister had been gone for a long time. Elena turned, the bells still echoing above her, and walked away. Seasons changed. Sevilla glowed once more with the warmth of spring. Elena walked through the gardens of Maria Luisa Park, the scent of jasmine filling the air. For the first time in months, her chest felt light. She had lost what she thought was unbreakable. Yet in losing, she discovered strength. She discovered silence could be kinder than false laughter. She discovered distance could be safer than poison closeness. Children played by the fountains, lovers strolled beneath the trees, and musicians filled the air with hopeful songs. Elena smiled, not because she had forgotten the betrayal, but because she had survived it. She was free, walking in a city she still loved, a city that held both her pain and her rebirth.